Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to discuss the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette again. I already did a first impressions on this palette probably about a week and a half ago from the time you're seeing this. Since the time I posted that, it has come to my attention that A, a lot of you don't want to spend the money on this palette, and I can't say that I completely blame you, and B, there are a lot of palettes out there with similar colors. I saw a few of the possible dupes going around on the internet and I realized that I have two of them, so I figured I would do like comparative swatches today in this video to sort of show you like whether they're actual dupes or not. I went through the palettes last night on my own before I sat down to film to make sure it was worth even filming at all, and I have to say in advance that some of the colors are pretty close, but I wouldn't say that either of these palettes is an exact dupe in any stretch of the imagination for the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. The colors are not exact and the formulas are very different. But if you are looking for just like a way to create similar looks to what you can make with the Naked Heat palette, I think these two might be pretty good for you. I do recommend one over the other, and I'll kind of let you know that as we go along and show you why. If you're very particular about the undertones, about the color shift, about what type of shimmer, about like the color payoff, like little differences in depth, then these are not dupes at all. They are just kind of palettes that are a similar theme, if that makes sense. So there are a few that are like dead on as far as color. I'll show you those. I'll show you all the ones that I think are dupe-a-loops, and then you can decide for yourself. The first palette in question is from NYX. This is the NYX Ultimate palette in the warm neutrals variety. They have a few of these. They have like a cool neutrals one and I think a brights one as well. Now, if I just hold these two palettes up next to each other, you can see that they are within the same kind of family of tones clearly, and you could definitely right off the bat see that they are similar enough that you could create similar looks from them. However, the shade's not dead on, and also I find this palette to be really, really dry. NYX is a very affordable brand. This palette for them is actually on their more expensive side. So this I think is $18. I bought this at Ulta. It is, or did I get this at Target? You could get it at either place, to be honest. The quality on this is totally acceptable, but it's not amazing. To me, I love NYX more for their lip products than I do for their eye products, especially their eyeshadows specifically. So it's just a matter of personal preference. I find these to be a little bit on the dry side, but there are a lot of colors in here that are pretty similar to the ones in the Naked Heat palette. I'll show you a couple of examples right now. It just so happens that neither of these palettes besides the Naked Heat palette have names for their shadows, and there's like a ton of them. So what I'm going to do is just put like a little insert of the palette itself as I talk about it, and like put a marker on which one I'm talking about as we go through them, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to keep track of like explaining to you guys which one I'm talking about. If I were to sit here and swatch every single one of these and go through the differences, I think this would be a really long video. It would be here all day, and it's really just not necessary because a lot of them are like pretty far off. But I will go through and show you the ones that I think are like pretty damn close dupes. So I'm going to show you some swatches of those, and the rest of them are like, they're in the same family, but they're not there. You know what I mean? The color in this that I think is a pretty close dupe for the color Lumbre from the Naked Heat palette. It's this color here. I'm going to put that on this finger, and I'm going to pick up Lumbre on this finger. Watch them for you guys side by side. This one here, which is Lumbre, is it's a little bit richer in tone, and it also has more of like a gold reflect to it. The shade from the NYX palette is similar, like very similar in shade and tone, but it doesn't have that little extra gold reflect that this one has, so it kind of gives it a little bit of a different finish, but they are definitely very similar. One of my favorite matte shades from the Urban Decay palette is this shade in Fuego. It's like this deep, like burnt earthy color. And I think there's a similar kind of almost sort of dupe in the NYX palette, so let's swatch those together. On this side we have the color in Fuego, and here is the one from the NYX palette. As you can see, the one from the NYX palette isn't quite as dark, and it's also a little bit more dry when applied. However, do keep in mind that these are just swatches and finger swatches at that, so those are not the most accurate ways to tell the quality of a product, but I have used both of these quite a few times, and the NYX palette It's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but it definitely takes a little bit more work as far as like building up the color. There's not as much pigmentation right off the bat. The rest of the colors in this palette are like fairly similar in tone, but I wouldn't say that any of the rest of them are dupes by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're not being picky and you're really just looking for like an alternative that's a little bit more cost effective, that can give you like those burnt, fiery sort of like warm tone looks that you can get from the Urban Decay palette, then this might be something that you want to look at. To be honest, I really don't think it's like even close to its good quality. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the NYX shadow formula, definitely more of a NYX lipstick girl. However, you know, if you're looking for something drugstore and you are not super duper duper particular about it, then this might be something that you want to take a look at. Next palette that has been called into the courtroom for questioning is the Morphe 35O. I know a lot of people hate Morphe, but I gotta be honest with you, as far as like the quality is concerned, I actually like this one a lot better than the NYX palette, so I'm a little bit more excited to share these dupes with you. Just holding them up side by side, once again, you can tell the tones are there. It's very, very similar in tone, and to be honest, there are a couple in here that I actually would call true dupes, not formula dupes, but definitely color dupes. The first one to note is this color from the Morphe palette is very, very similar to the color Dirty Talk from the Urban Decay palette. Let's swatch them both next to each other so you can see what I'm talking about. There's Dirty Talk, and there is the color from the Morphe palette. As you can see, they're not exact. Dirty Talk is a little bit less warm than the one from the Morphe palette, but as far as color payoff and the general tone, if you were to put these in a look, just not by themselves, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference, to be honest with you. And the color payoff, the pigmentation, and the blendability of these is pretty comparable. I wouldn't say that all of the colors in the Morphe palette are comparable quality-wise, because I don't find the Morphe mattes to be very blendable, and the Urban Decay ones are. So it's not like the entire palette is a dupe quality-wise, but some of the shimmers are pretty damn close. I also think that one of these mattes here is a pretty close dupe for the color Sauced, so I'm going to swatch that one next. And I think Low Blow is also pretty dupeable from here as well. Okay, this is Sauced, and then that is the one from the Morphe palette. Sorry, they're so far apart, I can't really see what I'm doing. The one from the Morphe palette is obviously not as pigmented at all, but the tone is the same, so if you were to build them up, they'd be pretty similar. I do think that Sauced is like a little bit, maybe more of a warm undertone. Again, within a look, you probably wouldn't really be able to tell the difference between the two, but if you were going to use them by themselves, shit's not the same. I also think this poopy doopy brown color over here is very similar to the color Low Blow, so let's check that out too. Okay, there we have Low Blow. And there's the one from the Morphe palette. The mattes in the Morphe palette do not have the payoff that the ones from the Urban Decay palette have. They are very workable though. So if you are using them within a look, you could definitely build them up to look the way that the Urban Decay ones do. It just takes a little bit more work as you go along. It's not as easy. It's not as like, you know, ready to go a product, but it does get the job done. So it's not the worst thing in the world, you know? There are a couple other shades in here that are like the bone white shades and stuff that are super similar, I guess, to the ones in the Morphe palette. But like, to be honest, those are the most dupable shades in the world, and they really mean nothing at the end of the day. They're really not even worth swatching whatsoever. But if for some reason those are like a deal breaker to you, the ones in the Morphe palette and the ones in the NYX palette are like close enough that you'll totally have those as well. Now, there is one shade in the Urban Decay palette that I have not been able to find a dupe for yet. That is this dark, deep shade on the end. It's called Ember. I haven't found a dupe for it in any of the palettes that I own, which is saying something because I own a lot of goddamn palettes. To be honest, this is kind of the color that makes the Urban Decay palette for me, you know? It's like the color that I'm drawn to the most out of the whole thing. So if I could find a dupe for it, I'd be really thrilled, but I haven't yet. If you have any dupes that you know of or that you can think of, please name them in the comments so I can check them out, see if I have them in my collection, or go out and swatch them or something, because I would love to find a dupe for that specific color, being that it is the best color in the whole palette in my opinion. So it'd be nice to have it like as a single, even if it's not the same formula, you know what I mean? Just so you guys get a picture of what I'm talking about, that's the color. It is so beautiful. It is a really, really, really rich dark brown color, but it also has like a very warm undertone. I don't know, it's just it's very unique. It looks really great on the eyes. It's one of the prettiest colors that Urban Decay has probably ever made, in my opinion. I'm gonna need a freaking shower after this shit. So some final thoughts on these possible dupes. Out of the three, the Urban Decay palette, in my opinion, is the best quality. The second best quality is the Morphe 35O. And the worst quality, I hate to say it, is the NYX Ultimate Warm Neutrals palette. What can you do? I just don't like the way that their eyeshadows perform. It's just my opinion. I'm sorry. Neither of these palettes is like a dupe. You know what I mean? I wouldn't call them a dupe. I wouldn't use the word dupe at all, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But I would say that they're alternatives. They're alternative options to the Naked Heat palette. You can get similar looks out of them for less money if that is what you are looking for. However, if you have been thinking about the Naked Heat palette and you're on the fence because you think there are other similar palettes out there, hopefully this was informative to you, because I find that these are not close enough to be a replacement, in my opinion. Neither of these palettes are shitty palettes. I have them both already. I obviously bought them because I like them. They are good. I just think that Urban Decay is a little bit freaking better. It is what it is. So I guess that's pretty much it for today. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that you found the swatches a little bit informative if you were on the fence about any of these palettes, or on the fence about the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. Just trying to help out, help inform you guys, make some wise consumer decisions as I not go for everything on my table. So you guys know, I was not sent the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. I was not paid to talk about it or anything like that. This is just me as a consumer. I bought the palette myself, so I am not biased in any sort of a way. I just like it better. That's pretty much it for today. I don't really have anything else to say about it. I hope you guys found that helpful. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, because that really helps me out. Don't forget to follow me on social media, because I would love to see your beautiful shining face over there every day. Maybe saying hello, leaving a comment on my photos, you know, whichever you choose to do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because that's the best way for us to stay in touch here on YouTube. You'll never miss a video. And that's pretty much all I have to say for today. I'm gonna shut up now, and I'll see you in the next one.